September 16th, 1935. Harlem. The Cotton Club. 11:26 p.m. The kind of night where the air smells like perfume, whiskey and danger, where smiles are loud. But fear is louder, because it doesn't need words. 200 people packed inside. Jazz. Laughter. Diamonds on necks. Sweat on palms, everybody pretending tonight is only music. Bumpy Johnson walks in. Not with noise. Not with a show. Just calm. The kind that makes a room adjust itself without being told. The band keeps playing, but the energy changes. Because everyone in Harlem knows Bumpy doesn't chase respect, respect follows him. He moves through the Cotton Club like he belongs there, even though the Cotton Club was never built to belong to him. Harlem made the sound. Harlem made the culture. But the doors were designed to remind Harlem where it stood. Bumpy knows that, and still. He refuses to shrink. Bumpy sits down like the city itself is his chair. No crowded bodyguards. No acting tough. Just control. And for a moment, it looks like the night might stay normal. Until one man stands up. A gangster. A paid hand. Not famous. Not loved, just bold because somebody powerful is backing him. He starts walking toward Bumpy. Straight steps. No wobble. Not drunk, not lost. Delivering something. The closer he gets, the quieter the room becomes. People stop chewing. People stop laughing. That silence is instinct, Harlem recognizing trouble before it speaks. The gangster stops at Bumpy's table. Bumpy looks up slow. The gangster leans forward with that smile that doesn't belong on a living face. "You Bumpy Johnson." Bumpy answers calm. "Who's asking?" The gangster looks round like he wants witnesses. Then he raises his hand and slaps Bumpy Johnson across the face. Not a punch, a slap. Humiliation, a message. The sound cracks through the club like a gunshot. For 1 second nobody moves, even the music. Stumbles, 200 eyes lock onto Bumpy, waiting for the explosion. Because that's what they want: emotion, rage, a mistake. Bumpy doesn't move, doesn't swing back, doesn't touch his cheek. He just stares at the gangster like he's reading the man's future. The gangster smiles bigger because he thinks he just did the impossible and lived. The gangster turns to walk away, and that's when Bumpy smiles. Not happy, cold. The kind of smile that says you just signed something you can't unread. Bumpy speaks quietly only for him. "You got 47 minutes. The gangster stops. "What?" Bumpy doesn't explain. He holds his eyes and repeats. 47 minutes. To disappear from Harlem. The gangster laughs like it's a joke and walks out. Inside the Cotton Club, the fear doesn't leave with him. It grows, because when a man like Bumpy stays calm after humiliation, it means he's not reacting, he's calculating. Bumpy finishes his drink like nothing happened. Then he stands and walks to the back exit. No rush. No drama, just purpose. His men follow because they already understand. The response is coming. Just not in the way the enemy expects. Outside, Harlem breathes cold. The streets are alive but cautious. A car pulls up like it was waiting. Bumpy gets in the back seat, and a young loyal man beside him can't hold it. "Boss, he slapped you." In public. Bumpy stares out the window. Calm voice. "He didn't slap me for himself." The young man blinks. Bumpy continues. "He slapped me because somebody paid him to do it." The car rolls forward, and Bumpy's words sharpen. "So I'm not hunting the hand. I'm hunting the brain." Then he says the sentence that turns Harlem into a machine. "Wake everybody up." Harlem responds like a body responding to pain. A barber stops cutting and makes a call. A church basement watchman gets woken up. A runner moves through alleys like the night depends on it. Harlem isn't just streets, it's eyes. At the same time, the gangster who slapped Bumpy walks with confidence. He thinks Dutch Schultz is protection. He thinks he delivered a message and earned his pay. He doesn't understand. You can hide from men, but you can't hide from a neighborhood. A woman at a window watches him turn the corner. A cigarette seller sees him get into a car. Somebody memorizes the plate. A bartender recognizes his face. Information moves faster than fear. Within minutes, Bumpy has a name. Rocco Razor DeLuca. A Dutch Schultz runner. Not a boss, a tool. Replaceable. Bumpy gets locations to Rocco's bar. Rocco's goal. Rocco's meat spots. But Bumpy doesn't rush. Smart Power doesn't sprint into traps. He waits, listens, lets the city deliver a map. Then the call that matters arrives. He's heading to Pier 17. Bumpy's face tightens. Pier 17 isn't just docks, it's Schultz pipeline territory. Money moves there. Liquor moves there. Bribes. Move there. Bumpy tells the driver, take the long way. The man hesitates. Bumpy answers, if we take the short way, we arrive angry. If we take the long way, we arrive in control. They ride through Harlem slowly, and Harlem moves with them. Corner stores watch. Numbers houses stay alert. Clubs keep playing. But everyone feels that something is coming. Not loud. Quiet like a storm before it hits. They stop a few blocks from the pier. Bumpy steps out and adjusts his coat. Somebody hands him a handkerchief. He wipes his cheek not because it hurts, but because it reminds him what this is really about. Humiliation spreads if you let it live. At Pier 17 the air smells like salt and oil. Rocco stands near a warehouse door smoking, waiting, comfortable again. He doesn't notice the trap because the trap isn't in front of him. He turns and freezes. Bumpy stands 10 feet away, alone, hands empty, face calm. Rocco tries to laugh. Bumpy, listen. Bumpy raises one finger, and Rocco stops talking like his voice got stolen. Bumpy steps closer. You got nerve. Rocco stammers. I was paid. Bumpy nods. I know. Then Bumpy says the words that drain blood from faces. Dutch Schultz paid you to slap me. Rocco's confidence collapses into fear. Bumpy's voice stays low. You ain't the message. You're the receipt. Rocco tries to reach for his gun too late. A hand from behind grabs his wrist and twists. Rocco screams. Bumpy doesn't flinch. He speaks like a judge. You slapped me because you thought you could walk away. Rocco begs. He mentions family. Bumpy answers with the truth. So did everybody Schultz buried. Rocco offers what desperate men always offer: information. I can help you. Bumpy pauses. Talk, and Rocco spills everything. Names, drop points, bribe routes, cops, clubs, who Schultz is approaching in Harlem. Bumpy listens, not emotional, not impressed. Building a map. When Rocco runs out of words, he looks up like a man trying to buy oxygen. I told you everything. You gonna let me go? Bumpy stares a long time, then says softly, You already gone. And he turns and walks away without looking back, because the real punishment isn't a beating. It's what happens after when the system moves. Within the next hour, Bumpy's men move like shadows, not random violence precision. A Schultz collector gets pulled aside and sent home with a message. A corrupt cop gets warned. Stop. Or your secrets go public. A club owner gets his backroom access cut off by his own staff. Then Bumpy attacks the real target. Money. Harlem's numbers economy becomes a wall. Schultz collections get delayed. Envelopes disappear. Runners refuse. Payments stop. Schultz's pipeline doesn't break with fire, it breaks with silence. By 1 o'clock a.m. Schultz men are confused. They're used to fear. But Harlem isn't scared. Harlem is organized. And a neighborhood that stops obeying is more dangerous than a man with a gun. Schultz tries intimidation, sending more men. More threats. But threats don't work when the target shows unity. Bumpy makes sure Harlem sees. In barbershop, church, numbers, house presence as protection. Schultz attempts a bigger message. A hit on a numbers drop to prove power. But Harlem hears about it before it happens. Somebody always hears. Somebody always talks. Not weakness connection. Schultz men arrive and find nothing. No money. No people. Just a note pinned to a door. Wrong. Neighborhood. Schultz reads it and understands he's behind, not in strength, in time. Days later, Schultz pulls back, quietly. No announcement. But everybody knows. He lost Harlem's chessboard. Because one slap didn't weaken Bumpy. It exposed Schultz. And the emotional truth is deeper than crime. That slap wasn't just a man hitting a man. It was the world trying to remind Harlem it could still be humiliated in public. Every person in that room felt it in their bones. Bumpy's calm wasn't weakness. It was protection. He knew a public shootout would bring heat, would bring bodies, would bring suffering to Harlem streets. So he chose the response that shields the community first and punishes the enemy second. That's why Harlem followed him. That's why Harlem became his armor. And that's why the story stayed alive. Because when people say 47 minutes later, Harlem burned, they don't always mean flames. They mean fear caught the wrong side. They mean confidence melted. They mean Dutch Schultz learned you can't own a neighborhood that refuses to be owned. And the gangster who slapped Bumpy Johnson became a ghost story. Not because people saw him die, but because people stopped seeing him exist. And silence after a man vanishes is louder than any gun. So, if this story changed how you think about power, subscribe. Because the real Harlem history isn't just crime, it's control, dignity, and the moment a whole neighborhood decided, never again. That night in 1935, inside the Cotton Club, one slap tried to make Bumpy Johnson small. But what happened next made Harlem larger than any mob boss ever imagined, and New York remembered. Because you can survive a gunfight, but you can't survive being turned into a lesson. Not by Bumpy Johnson, not in Harlem, not ever.